Good Thursday evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on WSAZ Plus. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. We know it's just a little after 9 this evening. And unfortunately, we are not getting out of that cold anytime soon. So let's go ahead and bring in Chief Meteorologist Tony Cavalier. Tony, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I know that we have a couple of things that we want to talk about. And you have some practical tips for people to help navigate because that ice is not going away anytime soon.
And this is not your everyday ice that we have on the ground. In fact, I've been at this about 40 years, and of course, I grew up to play on ice hockey in Philadelphia from the time I was young.
Right.
I know a good ice at ground level, and this is the most ice that I've ever encountered at ground level for this long.
Wow.
It's too thick, it's widespread, and every day it poses a challenge every step you take. So here are some practical tips if you must get out. And remember earlier in this week I said if you could postpone your doctor's appointments, I would put them off this week. You have to slow your pace. If the ice is smooth, you can slide. If it's rough, you would walk side saddle, give you a little more traction. Again, the pace is important. You cannot get ahead of yourself, meaning going too fast. No matter how slight a downgrade you may be walking on. I'm not talking about going down a step where it's obviously that would be an issue. I'm talking about the slightest decline in a surface you're walking out will accelerate your walk. You need to walk upgrade. If not, you go side saddle and try to get past it. Eric Fossil's in the newsroom right now. He's been around a while. He's seen ice and snowstorms. He's just our top-notch webmaster at night, and he was relating to me how he likes to use a stick. It can be a broomstick, it can be a hockey stick like I had out tonight, in order to both balance him and to be able to avoid the ice he's walking on by directing his walk. A stick or a cane stuck into the ruts. They won't go in, but you'll be able to get them on top, and that will help you to get a little more traction. Why are we doing this? We're trying to avoid slips, and a slip on this ice can be more than a sprained ankle. Okay, we've seen that already. Likewise, if you're driving, and this is important on those secondary roads, the ice is so hard and so thick, I'm afraid it's going to rub up against your muffler. So you really need to avoid those secondary roads. I know you can't do that all the time, but the ice is probably 2 and 3 inches thick, and your muffler sits about an inch or two above that. So you need to be avoiding these rutted roads where the ice is so thick. And again, when I talk a traveler's alert, Kimberly, I'm not talking just driving.
Right.
I'm talking about walking.
You know, we even had somebody in our newsroom kind of talk about they had to take their car over to a shop because they had got it. It's a car that sits a little bit lower to the ground, and they were worried that they had knocked off some of the stuff underneath of it, the machinery, the equipment there, and they were worried about that because it got stuck on that ice.
I'm sure that the car repair shops are doing buku work as we do damage to our cars by not driving properly.
Well, and plus the potholes that eventually we'll see when it warms up around here.
The mother of all potholes, and we know that because of the frost quakes we had 2 nights ago. That water in the ground is just waiting. Once the melt occurs, it's just waiting to rip apart our roads.
All right, Tony. Unfortunately, I don't think it seems like that ice is going away anytime soon. So you were talking about how to walk on it. Do you have any other recommendations for people as we try to navigate it?
Well, the good thing that's happened the last 2 nights now is we've not had a fresh coat of snow to hide the ice. You go out, you see the ice, okay, instinctively you know it's peril to walk on that, perilous. Okay, when we get a dusting of snow, up to an inch on Saturday night, Sunday morning, just make sure you don't let your guard down heading off to church services, because underneath that small accumulation, that dusting of snow, will be this solid ice that can cause problems. Now, tomorrow morning I've got a graphic. We're going to orient ourselves toward what's coming, and that is there's going to be a skim of snow through our southern coal fields. So, Kimberly, call those graphics up,
all right,
and I'll show you that we have a winter weather advisory from the National Weather Service in purple. That's for light snow and slick roads. That occurs first thing tomorrow morning and all the way till Saturday morning. The accumulation in that zone from Logan to Mingo, Martin, Johnson, Floyd, Magoffin, Pike County, Kentucky, 1 to 3 inches of snow. It's probably 1 toward Paintsville and 3 toward the Breaks Interstate Park, which is on the Pike County and the Dickinson County line into Virginia. It's probably an inch or so in Logan and Williamson, and down toward Warncliffe, down toward Gilbert, Horsepen Mountain, Bolton Mountain, heading over toward Beckley, the high ground, likely getting 2 or 3 inches of snow. And just south of Beckley, you go down toward Princeton and Bluefield, and you make the trip down toward Wytheville, Virginia. You're getting into a deeper snow, 3 to 5 inches expected there. Complements of tomorrow's snow and additional snow that's coming on Saturday. And in fact, you can see why the ice is a problem. The temperature is already down to 8 in Athens and 10 in Jackson in Ohio. And yet with a cloud cover, Charleston or Huntington South, the temperature is in the 20s right now. That's the difference between a clear sky tonight, which the last several nights has produced way below 0 temperatures, versus a cloud cover, which will keep temperatures at 10 or 12 tomorrow morning. As far as the forecast is concerned, again, 10 degrees on ice underfoot tomorrow. Whether you get a dusting or a coating of snow in the coal fields is regardless. Everybody's got the ice underfoot where it's left over. 15 lunch hour, only 20 at the end of the day. Of course, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're beginning the WSAZ Wrestling Invitational. Okay, you can see very light snow and flurries breaking out, coming out of Illinois, Indiana, pointed into Kentucky, and will swoop across the southern coal fields. You can see it by 7 in the morning. Draw a line from Louisa to Summersville and north. Plus or minus, obviously, the computer won't be perfect, 10 to 20 miles, but you get the idea. The far south you go, better chance of a light snowfall tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon. And tomorrow night, the richer blues are Bluefield south, and that's where the winter storm warning's in effect. And even that hangs into Saturday. Interesting thing, by the time we get to Saturday night, this big offshore storm, which will become a blizzard and will be probably hawked on nightly news and other news outlets as a cyclone bomb. Basically, it's going to have such a huge wind field that it's going to draw some moisture from the Great Lakes on a north wind in here. So Saturday night into Sunday morning, I do expect a coating of snow of an inch or so across the area, and that can certainly create some slick travel. So the southern weekend storm, pretty easy to understand. We're on the outside looking in. We're in that white oval. Charleston South in particular, the coal fields, to get 1 to 3 inches of snow. Then Saturday night, you can move that white north to Ironton and north of Charleston to southern Ohio and central West Virginia. All the while, the trip from Bluefield to Wytheville to Mount Airy on I-77, you're getting upgrade and you're getting into a higher snowfall. And that trip that is completed toward the Queen City of Charlotte will feature 4 to 8 inches of snow. Now, these are conservative numbers. I know just before I came up, I was looking at the new European model, which actually backed 5 inches of snow into Myrtle Beach. And I do have Myrtle Beach in that blue oval, which is 3 to 5 inches. But the oddity is, look at the bottom of the screen, North Charleston, South Carolina. I have them getting more snow than the west side of Charleston City in West Virginia.
You know, I feel for anybody who was trying to escape to the south to get a little warmer this time of year. We often see a lot of people who maybe are in retirement or just try to plan a vacation for the winter months, head south. And unfortunately, it seems like they're just going to get the cold with them.
And you know what they're known as, right? Snowbirds. So they're taking it with them. In fact, here's an interesting tidbit. Here at WSAZ, of course, we own Gray Television stock. Duh, that's our parent company. So before I could check the Gray Television stock price today, across my screen came Royal Caribbean, Carnival Cruise Line. All those stocks were way up. That's because people are buying tickets and getting out of Dodge, I suspect, in the East and the Northeast. That's a true story. Check it out.
I think anybody would be trying to get away to go a little bit warmer this time of year. If you're not a snowbird, you don't like it. And I think when you think about just how many flights, we already saw so many flights across the country be impacted. But, Tony, to know that Charlotte's going to get hit, that's a big hub for a lot of people that travel through the area.
And last weekend it was an ice storm, sleet and freezing rain. More sleet in Charlotte that basically impacted many flights out of Douglas International Airport in Charlotte. And this Saturday into Sunday, it's going to be an all-out snowstorm.
Okay, Tony, you talked about obviously the coal fields could see a little bit of snow tomorrow. Can you talk about the timing for them?
They should be snowing when we wake up tomorrow morning.
All right.
Okay, because the Doppler radar already shows snow near Lexington and Louisville. So it'll be snowing lightly in the morning, maybe a midday break, and then another little burst in the afternoon into the evening hours. And in particular, into Saturday morning. That's an aggregate 1 to 3 inches to accumulate over basically a 24-hour period. So not a blast of snow,
Right.
but just enough. And down there, they have less ice on the ground because they had less snow and sleet. They had more rain. So a lot of folks, who's going through the ice problems? Well, it's basically northern Kentucky, the river cities, into the Kanawha Valley. Kanawha Valley was more elevated ice on the trees. If you're looking for the ice at ground level that's so thick, you're looking at Huntington to Ashland, Ironton. And yet you go to Portsmouth and north, they've got snow and ice on the ground, but they had mainly snow. So those areas have been able to shovel out much more efficiently than we have. We are in this very select zone where we had many hours of sleet. That's ice that was falling from the sky. And then that went on top of the snow that then had rainfall in it, and that concoction literally soaked up the water. And then it got below freezing. It started freezing. We had those frost quakes. And we're left with, folks, if you don't live in the river cities or nearby, we are left with about 3 inches of ice, and it's solid. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Kimberly, unfortunately, looking for, I mean, you may see in the 7-day forecast, and I'll punch it up here.
Yeah.
You may see a 34, 35-degree temperature next week, and that's the winter weather advisory we went through. But I don't see anything that allows for a major thaw. A little thaw by day, then a freeze at night. And basically the week thereafter looks not quite as cold, but it looks basically at or below freezing most of the time. And the only question becomes, will we get another western or southern storm come in to deliver more rain, sleet, and snow? And that's something we'll just have to watch. Not good news. Trust me, I feel your pain because I'm out in it every day. My driveway, they plowed it very well on Sunday evening. Hint, hint, where I live, I'm in charge of snow removal. So
Fitting, right?
So I said, all right, here's what you want to do, guys.
Yeah.
Well, but they've plowed huge chunks of snow that are rock solid hard. And so I'm basically parking on the street these days where it was plowed thoroughly. And I don't know when I'm going to get into my driveway because of those huge chunks. I can't use a shovel to get rid of them. And I don't have enough energy at my age to be able to go out there and spend a couple of hours chiseling it away for fear that my blood pressure might rise. So I'm playing it safe, and right now I'm not very optimistic about getting rid of the snow and the ice next week. We'll be able to whittle away at it, but once you whittle away, then you got piles that melt by day and freeze at night. You wind up with black ice on those shoveled surfaces. So what's worse, black ice, which you can
can't see.
Right?
It's hard. It's difficult.
Or would you rather have the thick glare ice that we have out there right now? And please don't ask me to say which one is better because I don't know.
I don't know. You kind of pick your poison there. It's really tricky. And, you know, I asked you this earlier when we were in our earlier newscast. I was saying, you know, for anybody who's got some of those trouble spots, it's really like a waiting game. It's kind of just slow and steady. We can't really rush it because, you know, it could be problematic. And there are just so many troublesome spots I think we're all going to have to keep our guard up for.
And the reason we're doing this is so that you who are watching us here on our web channel, that you know that one false step and you could go down. And maybe you cushion yourself with your elbow, broken elbow. Maybe you cushion yourself with your knee. I mean, you get the idea. When I say a sprained ankle or worse alert, I don't like to say what the worse is on the air. But here on the web channel, folks are looking for a little extra information. Obviously, I'm thinking of, you know, breaking limbs.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're trying to avoid that. This pattern, I would love to know what they do in Minnesota and in Wisconsin because that's what our weather pattern's like right now. And I think what happens there is they don't get the sleet storms in the winter. The sleet was the defining event of this winter storm. If we had just snow, we'd whisk it away. We'd be left with some black ice and with some piles of snow and some ice in them, but we wouldn't have the density that we have. a density that I have not seen. I do remember a storm in 1968 in Philadelphia when I was just learning to ice skate. We had heavy snow. I don't remember if it sleeted, but then we had heavy rain. And the snow fields soaked in the water and then froze solidly. And I can remember how I learned to ice skate was putting my back to the wind and letting the wind glide me down the 100 yards on the football fields of ice. True story, 1968.
You know what, Tony? I think it would be neat to see how they kind of go through all of that as they're accustomed to that. Really, we get one, maybe two pretty bad or pretty tough storms for us to go through each season. So I don't feel like we have as much practice as people who live elsewhere do.
And it's rare for them to get sleet in the winter in those northern climates. Sleet is more of a southern United States or a central Appalachian phenomenon during the winter season when these winter storms come in. And we went through the whole gamut. And in the river cities, in Charleston Canal Valley, it's a lot of ice that's been up in the trees.
Yeah.
Freezing rain, power lines down, tree limbs over the power lines. Here in the river cities, Huntington in particular, where we live, here we have had a lot of sleet and a minimal amount of freezing rain. And so we didn't really lose power for the most part. And the price to be paid for keeping the power was the density of the ice that is in this snowpack. And I did that story on the ice Cateers on Monday from Sunday. I think I shot it on Monday. But there the kids were sledding on solid ice. And I even told Tim, he's taking his granddaughter out, I said, this is a faster than normal field of snow and ice to be sledding on. So if the kids are out there, if they have another day off and they're sledding and it's too fast, I recommend wearing a helmet.
It's a great piece of advice, Tony, because I think, you do have to remember a lot of those kids that's what's fun about the winter season is they finally get to do some activities that we don't always get to. But we do know that things can take a turn very quickly. And so it's certainly a good reminder for everybody. You got to keep in mind that we've got a lot of thick patches of ice. So if you are out and about, maybe use your judgment. Maybe don't go on the hill that's as big. Yeah. Maybe stick to some of those smaller ones.
And don't go in those hills that have trees. Where I sledded in Philadelphia at Lincoln High School, we may have mentioned this last week, the alma mater of one Rambo. Who would that be? From Rocky? That would be Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
He went to that high school, that public high school was 2 blocks down from where I lived. And we would go sled over there. There were 2 hills. One was called Dead Man's Hill. And that had no trees. It's just very, very, very sleek and very steep. And then over on the side was Suicide Hill because there you were sledding and you were sledding amongst trees.
Ooh.
And there, back then, we used to do the old flexible flyers, and we went head first. We were skeleton sledders. And that's where, you got to be real careful on this ice. You got to protect your head at all costs. So forget about trees. And if you're sledding, just recognize that the ice underneath, and we're down to like 10 to 15 by tomorrow morning. So it's just, it's basically, it's an Olympic luge field of ice that we have out there. If you treat it that way.
Yeah.
I just got to be careful, especially with the younger kids. The parents need to go down the slope with them and have their feet out. Use your feet as of course, brakes for the sled.
Yeah. Tony, can we go ahead and pull up that 7-day one more time
Sure.
and get a look at those temperatures? Because we mentioned they aren't going away anytime soon. And honestly, by next week, we may feel like 30, 34. It's a little bit of a heat wave around here.
No question. And all that screams to me is a slow thaw and then a freeze at night. And so I see a lot of black ice in our future as opposed to the glare ice we have right now. And on Monday, what is that little icon there? It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about time for Punxsutawney Phil and French Creek Freddy to come out and to predict what's going to happen the next 6 weeks of winter. Will we have an early spring, or will we be doing cartwheels with tulips and daffodils early and those early crocus coming out by the time we get to the 1st of March and beyond? only time will tell on that, Kimberly.
It certainly will. You know, Tony, before I let you go, I have to tell you, I grew up just a couple hours away from Punxsutawney as a kid. And so we used to go up. They have a whole science museum, and they talk about kind of what goes into the weather up there. And so if you've never been to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, I'm telling you, you have to go. It's a place to check out. They have, you know how we have kind of the frogs and the trains around downtown Huntington, the art depots? Well, they have Punxsutawney Phil's, so they've got large groundhog statues up there, and so it's really neat. If you need a good place to take your kids, maybe a vacation sometime, check it out. Not too bad. I can remember literally going there as a kid, and it's so exciting to see what kind of goes into the forecast. Of course, we know, Punxsutawney Phil, he didn't get a degree in meteorology, but we certainly
Glad you brought that up, because the kids who are watching, maybe this is, and that's how I was inspired. It was listening to Dr. Joel Myers on AccuWeather on the radio over the year, and Elliot Abrams, my two mentors when I went to Penn State. They didn't know they were mentoring me over the radio. Understand that that groundhogs don't forecast the weather. It's a public relations boom for towns like Punxsutawney, towns like French Creek, and so just accept that. There's no science to that, and we'll be fine. We have what's the word I'm looking for? We have a society that's getting away from the trueness. And so we need to understand, I can't predict the weather all the time, and there are way better forecasters. We have a forecast contest going here right now, and I'm now in third place. Okay, so I started it this week with these low temperature forecasts. So my point is, that's fun. We like to talk about it. We need some relief in our society, but it's the science of meteorology is so sophisticated now.
Yeah.
And I like to say I'm far from one of the finest in the field of meteorology, but I sure know where the finest are, and I certainly agree with what they say oftentimes as far as the weather on the planet changing. Finest scientists in the world are in stark agreement that our climate is changing.
I think Groundhog Day is just a good reminder for all of us that spring is coming. No matter what, it just kind of gives us something to look forward to. So, Tony, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks for giving us another look at the 7-day forecast and what we're likely expected to see over the next couple of days. You heard Tony mention those temperatures. While we will raise a little bit next week, it's not going to be enough to get us out of the woods yet. So if you are out and about, and before I let you go this evening, there's something I want to talk about. Our reporter, Abby Lord, was being able to, her story today, she was talking with a few drivers who had really a scary incident with ice coming off of vehicles that they were following on the roads. And so it was very, very scary for some of them. They said, they said, hey, use our experience as a reminder. Take that time to clear off the snow and ice. And I want to go ahead and pull up some video from that incident. Well, that's not the right video. That's the sunshine finally starting to come out for the rest of us. So, but take a look at that. I mean, gosh, can you imagine if you were driving down the highway? That would be pretty scary to see, just ice coming off of somebody's car or vehicle and coming back to hit you. So you can tell, just look at that dash camera video. You see those huge chunks of ice that are coming off of vehicles. So use this as your reminder to go ahead and clear that snow. I know it takes a couple extra minutes, but the person driving behind you on the road will be certainly very appreciative of you watching out for them. And so, they're just saying, hey, everybody use this as a reminder. Thankfully, the two people that had sent in those video clips to us that Abby spoke with weren't hurt. And, they had some damage to their car. They had to get that taken care of. But thankfully, they weren't hurt because, gosh, that would be very scary driving. And one other thing I want to remind everybody about, this was a story that actually our reporter, Victoria Ware, had been working on today. They were asking people, do you see those fire hydrants? Sometimes they can be really difficult for first responders to get to. And especially when you're out trying to clear the snow from your driveway, you may unintentionally cover one up and not realize it. So they said if you do have a fire hydrant near your home, and if you can do it safely, go ahead and clear that snow away from that and make sure that it's accessible to first responders in the area should an emergency happen. It really helps them out, they say, when they're trying to be trying to get somewhere and help somebody. And when they have to do one less step, it really makes the world of a difference from them. And so we certainly appreciate you joining us here on WSAZ Plus. I'm going to go ahead and get ready for our 10 and 11 o'clock news this evening. You can catch that in just about 30 minutes or so on WSAZ. But if you can't, we certainly appreciate you stopping in to check here for an update on Tony's forecast, what we could see in the region. He did mention a little bit of snow in the coal fields tomorrow. So if you're out and about trying to get to that last day of work, do be careful. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us here.